The Vancouver Canucks have a date with destiny. They can control their fate right here, and all it takes is 6 more regulation wins in a row. Now, I'm kidding. That part is kind of an exaggeration. I'm not going to make it seem like that is the easiest thing to do, but that is indeed the case. Should the Vancouver Canucks just decide to themselves, hey, we want to make the playoffs? All they've got to do to guarantee that is win 6 in a row in regulation. Now, the reason why I say it like that is because even though the Vancouver Canucks are currently not in the playoffs, right now if you go over to the NHL standings and you sort it by the wild card, let's take a look at how everything goes down. Vancouver is currently not in any of the spots, 3rd in the Pacific, 2nd or 1st, or in the 2 wild cards. They are 4 points behind the LA Kings, who are 3rd in the Pacific, and 5 points behind Dallas and Nashville, who are in the wild cards. Vancouver has the same games played as Dallas and Nashville. They have 1 fewer game played than LA. Vegas is the team that is kind of in the middle of things. It makes it a little bit more difficult to project where you go, as they have 1 more point than Vancouver at 87, and they have 1 more game played than Vancouver at 77. This means that in order for the Vancouver Canucks to guarantee themselves a spot, they have to win. And they have to keep on winning. They've already won 6 in a row. Can they win 6 more in a row to guarantee a spot? Now, the other way for them to go out there and make the playoffs is for them to just keep on winning a little bit, but to also have the other teams, LA and Vegas, crap the bed as well. Now, the likelihood of those 2 teams both crapping the bed in the same way at the same time is not the most likely thing in the world, and the odds of the Vancouver Canucks winning 6 in a row are not the most likely thing in the world either. But there still is a conversation we can go out there and have. Why does this work? Well, if you assume the Vancouver Canucks go out there and they win the remaining 12 points that they have up for sale right here in regulation, they can max out with an 82 game played schedule of 98 points. Now, the Vegas Golden Knights, if they were to win the remainder of their games, they've got 5 left. That's 97 points they have the potential to get. Vancouver has the potential to outscore Vegas in terms of the overall points if both teams win all of their remaining games. Now, for LA, this is the interesting one, because they have 5 games remaining. If they win all of them, that's 100 points on the year. But one of the last games that the LA Kings play is against Vancouver. So if the Vancouver Canucks win out, that automatically means that LA is not going to win out, and they automatically lose at least 1 game. If the Vancouver Canucks tie up the LA Kings in the standings and everything goes their way, then hey, the tiebreaker actually would go to Vancouver, because if you assume they win their remaining games in regulation, that is 6 more regulation and overtime wins added to their chart. That would be 41 wins on the season. LA would have, if you do the 4 that they could win, assuming they lose to Vancouver, they would only have 40. So there is a very slight chance that the Vancouver Canucks can go out there and make themselves a run. Now, as I said, it's already been a run. They've won 6 in a row. They need to win 6 more to guarantee a playoff spot. Obviously, if LA and Vegas just start losing, then they can go ahead and have a little bit more breathing room, but you gotta remember, when Bruce Boudreau took over the Washington Capitals, that team went 11-1 to end off that regular season to force themselves into the postseason dance. I don't want to make it seem like Bruce Boudreau is going to do exactly the same thing, but he has had a track record of making miracles happen for these NHL teams that he starts coaching. If you go over to MoneyPuck.com and you take a look at the NHL playoff odds, the LA Kings, assuming they just play the way they have been, have an 85% chance of making the dance. The Vegas Golden Knights playoff odds are down at 19%, and if they continue trending in the way they have, which is losing games — we're going to be talking about the Golden Knights later in the show, by the way — things can get even worse for them. For Vancouver, though, what was a sub 10% playoff odds for the entire past few weeks has now grown to an 11.6% chance. If they win the next game in regulation, those odds go up to 15.75%. If they win it in overtime, those odds go up to 15.92%. The reason why I think MoneyPuck has it like this is because I think in their algorithm, it's a lot easier for a team to make the playoffs in the way the Vancouver Canucks can make the playoffs if they have an overtime win or two sprinkled here and there, rather than just going out there and saying, okay, 6 in regulation. As long as Vancouver wins in regulation or overtime pretty much, it's fine, because you don't really care about giving all these other teams points. You only care about LA getting points, to be fair. But Vancouver needs to get those regulation and overtime wins. No shootouts over here. So either way, it is kind of in their own hands right now. This team has the potential to win out and make the postseason dance. It's just, you've got to turn a 6-game winning streak into a 12-game winning streak, and that is tough. Now, the team has been hot, for sure. I don't want to make it seem like I'm against the team doing well. I think I already said it in the previous video, but, like, people are talking about, oh, the draft, you know? If you go out there and you see the Vancouver Canucks not make the playoffs, you go from, what was it, like 14th or 13th or 12th overall in the draft to 16th overall in the draft because you become the best team to not make the playoffs. Well, screw that. This year's not the year to go out there and worry about that sort of thing. This year has a lot of good players from the 10 to 15, 10 to 20, 10 to 30 range pretty much, that the drop-off from 14th, 12th, 11th, 10th overall to 15th overall is not really worth it, in my opinion, to fuss about. Sure, in previous years, the difference between a Trevor Zegras and a Ville Heinola or a Cam York probably would have been significant to warrant that kind of a motivation for fans of the hockey teams that are going in there and losing games. But this year is not that season, so anybody going out there looking for the playoff odds, I kind of feel like this is not the year to fuss about the draft lottery and that order, so just kind of go out there and enjoy what good things there are when you're presented with them, right? The Canucks are so hot right now, and they're doing this without getting the injury support that they could be getting. Bo is out, and you have Chason who is out, and you had these other guys stepping in to fill in those roles. Brock Besser is back, but we didn't know how well he would perform in his return to the lineup, and he got a goal and an assist, or a goal and 2 assists, something like that. It's been a while since it's been this fun to be a Canucks fan, and it's wild considering just where the team was at the beginning of the year, in the first few weeks of the season. You gotta think to yourself, if Bruce Boudreau just came in like a week and a half earlier, if Aquaman just fired all those guys a week and a half earlier, this team would be in the playoffs. They would be if you assume they kept the same record. Sure, Bruce Boudreau has had a few winning streaks to work off of, 7 games at the beginning or 6 games at the start of his tenure in Vancouver, plus the 6-game streak today. It could grow to 7 if they beat Ottawa today. So, yeah, I'm going to say there's a lot of luck involved here, but you gotta be good to be lucky. And sure, the Vancouver Canucks have sucked in a lot of the games they've played under Bruce Boudreau. We have seen so many inconsistency issues that it does not appear like this team could be a playoff team if you watch certain segmented parts of the year. But the entire season, I've said it the same. When the Vancouver Canucks play well and they actually win, they look really good when they do so. So it's going to be interesting to see where things go tonight. Ottawa is coming in town for a back-to-back of their own. They got smoked by Seattle 4-2 yesterday in Climate Pledge Arena. Of course, Vancouver is on the second half of a back-to-back as well. They won yesterday against Dallas. So both teams somewhat tired. Both teams have something to fight for, I guess. I think Vancouver has a lot more to fight for than Ottawa does at this point in time. But let me know in the comments your thoughts about Vancouver and the way they have come into their own during the past few weeks, forcing their hands to make things work out for them. All they got to do now is just win 6 in a row and grow to a 12-game winning streak in order to lock themselves into the postseason. Is it possible? Sure. Is it likely? I don't know. But it's a possibility, which is Minnesota Wild to see. Yeah, the Canucks play the Wild as well in the remaining few games they have. That's going to be probably the worst game for them. Probably the most difficult one out of the bunch. And then, of course, they have LA, which is going to be the most important game of the stretch. So, yeah, trouble in Canucks Town, eh? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Charles 99. And bye.